While some superpowered beings are clearly defined as mutants in Marvel Comics, others have only come close to achieving mutant status, only for the possibility to be dismissed or retconned away from them. Join me as we revisit some of these moments as we count down the top 10 superheroes who were almost mutants. Almost. So close. Number 10. Spider-Man. Yes, even Spider-Man was once almost classified as a mutant, if you can believe that. While people have speculated on this in the comics for years, it has been confirmed that Spider-Man is a mutate. But in the 90s animated series, even Spider-Man was convinced that when he needed help with his mutation, the X-Men were the team to turn to. He visited Professor X when he was worried about mutating further after having some trouble with his powers. Spider-Man was told by Dr. Kurt Connors that what he was mutating into was something that was probably not human. Peter hoped that Professor X would be able to cure him, but the professor revealed that his goal was not to cure mutants, but to help them embrace their mutant gifts and train them. In the end, this led to a team up with Beast and the X-Men in the animated story The Mutant Agenda, and we learned that Spider-Man was a different kind of mutant than those whom Professor X recruited to his school and X-Men team. Number 9. Quicksilver. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are twin siblings and both have been team members of the Avengers. Both of them have also struggled to find an origin as characters that would stick with them. Before even becoming known in the comics for being Magneto's kids, there were actually a few other origins that were attached to these two mutants. One was more casual, where their parents were really anyone of note in the superhero community. Another suggested they might be the children of Miss America and Whizzer. However, Magneto being revealed as their dad finally seemed to be the one that stuck. Until, many years later, after it had been vehemently established as fact and built upon, it was revealed that even this was not true. Seriously, these two have had a really weird and complex and ever-changing family tree. Not only that, they weren't even mutants apparently. It turns out the High Evolutionary was the one responsible for making it appear as though they were mutants, disguising them as such after experimenting on them. This retcon would lead Quicksilver to having problems with his powers later on and cause him to turn to the Inhumans for help. So now he's more affiliated with that group than the mutants he was so long tied to and believed to be a member of. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to hear about some more folks that were almost mutants but not quite, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. Scarlet Witch. When it comes to Wanda's origins as a character, it's been a roller coaster, much like her brother Quicksilver. But possibly even more so, because Wanda herself has also been through a lot as a character. She's been labeled a villain, a hero, a mutant, an avenger, a pretender. She's been a wife, she's had kids, she's had her kids removed from her because they didn't really exist. So many things. And all along the way, her origin has been retconned multiple times. One of the most prominent retcons, of course, was like Quicksilver, when it was revealed that after years of working by his side and also being claimed as Magneto's children, it was revealed that Scarlet Witch was not actually the daughter of Magneto. In fact, she wasn't even a mutant, which made everything that happened in House of M and its aftermath seem a lot worse in present light, hence how she was called a pretender for a while there. Number 7. Luna. Luna Maximoff is the daughter of Inhuman hero Crystal and Avenger Quicksilver. As a result, it was believed initially that Luna was a mutant and human hybrid, something I never really thought about existing until I wrote this list. This is mainly because Inhumans usually only mate and partner off with Inhumans to help keep their people, the Inhumans, alive, but also because they have trouble existing in certain atmospheres for long periods of time, which their bodies often find toxic, which is why they also typically keep to themselves in their floating city of Attilan. Because Quicksilver was Luna's dad, it was implied that she was part mutant, and because Crystal was her mom, it was implied that she was part Inhuman. But with the retcon of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, Luna's origin for her power set was also affected, because now they're not mutants, so then what does that mean for Luna? Leaving her now to be half Inhuman, half human instead, which I think is even weirder to me for some reason. Number 6. Fantomex. Fantomex is just really complicated when it comes to his backstory and his overall character, and well, just everything is confusing about Fantomex, to be honest. He has worked closely with mutants before and even been classified as one, although from what I can see that's really only ever happened once, and everything else is implied that he's more a mutate, not a mutant. However, he's also composed of 3 separate brains, and kinda 3 separate entities, so it is possible that one of them is a mutant while the others aren't, making him a sometimes mutant and a sometimes mutate. Basically, Fantomex is a mutant, I think? But also every time I actually have to go back through his history and then like reflect on this whole question, I find more confusion than clarity. I get more confused every time I return to this. Fantomex, mutant or not, he's complicated. Number 5. Cloak. Cloak is Tyrone Johnson, often the partner of Dagger. The two teamed up and met when they were just teens. Tyrone at the time was quite poor and living on the streets, and Tandy, who would become Dagger, had basically just run away from home. Together they became a crime-fighting duo. Initially they also appeared to get their powers from a shared mutant origin, however over the years this origin would become unstable, be called into question, and eventually retconned pretty much entirely. They went from being definitely mutants to characters with mutant-like abilities that were actually mutate-based and brought out from exposure to a drug. Number 4. Dagger. Dagger is the other half of the crime-fighting duo, Cloak and Dagger. Dagger was also once thought of to be a mutant and even found a home on the mutant island nation of Utopia back when that was a thing. From being a mutant to having latent mutant abilities, which were really mutate abilities awoken by exposure to a drug, both Cloak and Dagger were later declared by Norman Osborn to be straight up not mutants, but close enough when he offered them a place on his own X-Men team. It was then called into question whether or not they were mutants when they were tested for the mutant X gene, with the tests suggesting that they weren't mutants, but X-Men member Beast questioning if those tests were actually thorough enough to be considered conclusive. Now they are mainly considered mutates or altered humans, but really it's kinda still up for debate as to their true mutant or non-mutant origins. Number 3. Moira X. I mean, Moira really was a mutant, that was established. For a long time we believed that Moira was simply a human ally to mutants who stood by them because she believed in their cause. However, more recently in the comics at the beginning of the Dawn of X era of the X-Men books, it was revealed that Moira was in fact herself a mutant with a very specific and unique power set that also helped to make sense of, well, seemingly all the continuities we've seen balled into one throughout comic book history. When she dies, Moira is reborn into her life again. Each time she lives it creating a tangential reality or timeline. In other words, the reality of 616 is intrinsically tied to Moira's current incarnation and life. However, while this revelation was massive, she was then demutinified and allowed to leave Krakoa thereafter during a standoff between Mystique and Cypher. Mystique and Destiny were looking at getting revenge on Moira and intended to kill her, but not wanting to face a future where they were separated if they did so, Mystique was forced to let her go instead, after using a weapon of Forge's designed to turn Moira human. That way her death wouldn't have resulted in a possible end to the rest of the universe, getting rid of Moira's mutant genes and her power set. So Moira really was a mutant and simply is no longer one, but still I think we could call this a case of her being an almost mutant, as she was only a mutant for like a short while in the comics before being relegated back to the human category, at least for now. Number 2. Ultimate X-Men. Technically the whole team of X-Men once believed wrongfully that they were mutants, when in reality they kinda weren't. In the Ultimate universe, of course, not the main continuity. Here all mutants classified themselves as their own kind of superpowered beings, just like on our 616, often dividing and separating from humanity, considering themselves in a way different than your average human, even if they did possess superpowers, and often struggling with discrimination due to being classified a mutant. In the end, however, it was revealed that the mutants were actually a result of years of experimentation. Everything connected back to the super soldier serum, which became the explanation behind how mutants got their powers spontaneously, and what mutants really were. The serum had been leaked into the water supply and began affecting people and their offspring. Hence, we got mutants. But not really. This revelation is what helps the X-Men to defeat Magneto, as his whole philosophy and his beliefs are shaken by this revelation, leaving him broken as a result and vulnerable to attack. Number 1. Falcon. That's right, Sam Wilson was for a short time believed to be a mutant, and also inspired this list for me. Sam Wilson is a good friend of Captain America's and also his crime-fighting ally and partner, who is also known for having a telepathic link with his Falcon, Redwing. It was because of this telepathic connection that for a time he thought he might actually be a mutant. He was also mistakenly identified as a mutant by a Sentinel who pursued him. Later on, this was debunked, with the Sentinel being believed to be malfunctioning, as Sentinels sometimes do, thereby wrongly classifying Falcon. Instead, Falcon's telepathic link with Redwing and his ability to telepathically communicate with birds was revealed to be all a part of one of Red Skull's bizarre plots. Falcon gained this ability all because Red Skull had apparently made it so using the Cosmic Cube. I gotta say, I think it would have just made more sense to just let Falcon be a mutant. But okay, Marvel. Which superheroes do you think should have remain mutants? Which characters would you like to see returned to mutant status? And which characters do you think should be welcomed into the mutant side of things? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight. Till next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.